Hey everyone, welcome back to Data Millennials. I'm Atul and in this video I'm super excited to talk about VLOOKUP function in Excel. Before we go ahead and write some formulas, let's try to understand what exactly is VLOOKUP. This VLOOKUP is an Excel function which helps us to get data from a table organized vertically where the lookup value must appear in the first column of a table. And this function supports approximate as well as exact matching and the wildcard for partial matches. So this function, which has three different matching patterns, the approximate match, exact match and wildcard, it makes this formula very important and very useful in our day-to-day life. So you might think that what exactly this V stands for in this lookup function, right? Because we have already discussed about the lookup function in our previous videos. So what is the difference between this and the lookup function? So this V stands for vertical, and whenever you are using VLOOKUP, imagine that every column in the table is numbered starting from the left, and to get a value from a particular column you have to provide the appropriate number of column as a column index. So when I'm saying is that you have to imagine that each and every column in a table is numbered. This means that suppose this is the table 2 and you have to get marks for Wasim, then you have to consider this name column as 1 at index 1, this class is at index 2, English subject is at index 3, math is at index 4 and science is at index 5. So basically what you can understand is that the first column, this name, is at the first index, and similarly you have to understand or imagine that all of these columns from left to the right side is at a particular index and it is getting incremented by 1. So whenever I'm searching for this Atul, I have to make sure that the VLOOKUP formula is applied on the first column. So there might be another columns in the left hand side, but as the VLOOKUP only works in the way that it can search the data in a column and get the values from the right hand side. So even if you think that there is a dummy column in your left side in which we have certain data, but whenever we will be applying the VLOOKUP function, the column from where we are trying to match our value will be our first column, and the rest of the column in the right side will be the columns from where we can get the data. So VLOOKUP cannot look in the left hand side. So if you try to get the dummy column value for Wasim, which is in the left hand side of the main column or the name column, you won't be able to get that. For that you have to use index match function or index match function. But VLOOKUP is very important formula and is most important in our day-to-day life. Reason being is that it has the support for approximate match, exact matching as well as wildcard matching. So let's go and try to find out the way we can write this formula here. Before we write the formula, just want to inform you that in this video we will be solving around 5 different problems related to VLOOKUP, which will give you an overview of day-to-day problems that a data analyst or a business analyst handle using this VLOOKUP function. So for our first example is to get the matching value from table 2 based on the exact match, which is a simple VLOOKUP function. Right now we have a name here, and based on name we have to find out in which class he is and what is the marks he has scored in all of these 3 subjects. So basically if I put equal to VLOOKUP, you will see there are 4 different arguments that VLOOKUP is asking for. The first argument is the lookup value. This lookup value is argument is asking for the value which you are searching for. So the first argument is asking me to provide a string or a value which I am searching for in the another table. So for me the lookup value is in A6, it is the name of the student, then I'll put a comma. The second argument is the table array. This table array is the second table, or you can say the data set from where do you want to get the data, and you have to make sure that the lookup value should be in the first column so that you can get your data from the right hand side of the second table. So I'll select this entire data set here and I'll lock the cells by pressing F4. Then the third argument that VLOOKUP is asking is the column index number. So this column index number, the particular column from where you want to get the data. So if I count it here, name is in the first column and I have to get the class. So the class is in second column. So the column index will be 2. So I'll put 2, and then it's asking for the range lookup. So this range lookup is the last argument of VLOOKUP, and whether you can do an approximate match by typing true or 1, or you can use the exact match by typing 0 or false. So there is a difference between approximate match and exact match. So exact match will provide you the data based on the exact value which you are looking for, while the approximate match gives you the data based on the approximation of the value which is matching in table 2. So for this example, we are trying to get the data based on the exact match. So instead of writing false, I can put 0, and then I'll press enter. So now you can see that for Atul, the class is temp. We are getting class as temp, right? And in this table 2, in our first column is the name, right? And in front of Atul, class is temp. So our output is correct, right? Similarly, to get the marks, what we have to do is that we have to again write the VLOOKUP function, but as we have put the column index 2 for class, we have to put column index 3 to get the marks obtained in English. So we will simply write VLOOKUP, and then we'll give the lookup value, and then we'll give the table array. After you have selected this range, make sure that you lock this entire cell by pressing F4. Then you give the column index. For us, the column index is 3 because English is at third index. So we'll press 3, then 0 as exact match, and we'll press enter. So we can see here for Atul, the marks is 76 we are getting using this VLOOKUP function, and if we cross check it with our table 2 data for Atul, we have marks as 76, right? So simply for maths and science, what we can do is that we can simply copy this entire formula and then paste it here. We just have to replace this 3 column index with 4 because math is at 4th index. Similarly, for science, we can simply put the formula and then replace 3 with 5 because science is at the 5th index of our second table. So right now we have our values here. This value depends upon this key, which is our name. So in this table 2, we have our primary indicator or primary column, which is name here. Based on name, we are searching for class and the marks obtained in the subjects. If we change this name, for example, if I change this name to Sandeep, you will see that the class doesn't change. Reason being is that for Sandeep, class is temp, but marks has changed. For example, if anything you change in the second table, it will directly get reflected in your VLOOKUP formula also. So for Sandeep, if I change it to temp1, then you will see that the class here has changed dynamically because you have already applied the VLOOKUP formula. So this is how basically you use simple VLOOKUP function using this exact match to get the values. Now our second example is to get the matching value from table 2 based on multiple criteria. When I'm saying multiple criteria, this means that the table have duplicate values and you have to create a primary key or a column which has unique values to get the subjects and the class of the student. You can see here that we have given name and class. So for Atul and temp2 class, we have to get the marks obtained in the subjects, right? You see your table 2, you will have multiple rows having name Atul. For example, in row number 20 you have Atul for class temp1, and row number 27 you have Atul for class temp3, as well as row number 24 you have Atul for class temp2. So if you see this entire data set, you will find out that the name is repeating but class is different, and we have to get data based on name and class. Otherwise what will happen is that if you search the data based on name, what will happen is that there is a duplicacy of data, and this VLOOKUP will find the first match when the match mode is exact. So even if you are trying to find data for Atul who is in class temp 2, you will always get data in your VLOOKUP for Atul which is the first occurrence in this table for this name. So what we have to do here is that we have to create a unique key so that we can map the subject's marks in our result or the output table. So what we will do is that we will simply concatenate these two columns so that we will have our unique column. So I have already discussed about the concatenate function in different video, right? So I'll simply put equal to concatenate, and then we'll give this name comma this class, and I'll press enter. So okay, there is a mistake. Instead of J I have to put here K. So now we have a primary key column which states that this is the concatenation of name and class. So Wasim temp 1. For Wasim temp 1 you will have this subject here and their marks. So if I drag this formula, then you will see that you have a unique column here for each of these rows. There are no duplicacy. Now if I want to put a VLOOKUP function for Atul who is in class temp 2, then we can do it very easily. So what we have to do simply is that we have to put equal to VLOOKUP. Within VLOOKUP we'll use another function which is concatenate. Within this concatenate we will put this name and then this class, and then we have to give the table array. For table array we will use this pk as our first column, and then we will select this entire range of data. We'll lock this range, and then we have to count the column index. So for English the column index will be 4. Reason being, this pk column I will be our first index. Name will be on index 2, class will be on index 3, and English is on index 4. So we'll put 4 and then we'll put 0 because we have to use exact match, and then we'll close this bracket and press enter. So now you can see that for Atul who is in class temp 2, you are getting English's mark as 80. So if you see on row number 20 you have Atul temp 1 in your primary key and English marks is 63, while if you see row number 24 you have Atul temp 2 which has marks 80 in English, and our question here was for name Atul and class temp 2. So our output seems correct. We'll simply copy this formula and paste in the cell D17 because we have to get marks for maths also. So math is on index 5. We'll simply replace 4 with 5 and we'll get our marks for math here. Similar thing we'll do for science also. Science is on index 6, so we'll simply replace 4 with 6 and we have our marks for science also. So this is how you basically use VLOOKUP when you have to get the matching value from another table based on multiple criteria. You simply combine multiple columns to create a unique column, and based on that unique column you basically use this VLOOKUP function to get the values. Now our third example is to get the matching values from table 2 based on non-exact match. So till now in both our example we have used the exact match, but in our third example we have to use non-exact match, or in a simpler word we can say that we are going to use the approximate match for VLOOKUP. Now suppose that you have to get the marks obtained by Atul in English, math and science, but what happened is that you didn't have the proper name in your sheet. For example, instead of Atul you have Atul 1. Okay, and you have to get the marks obtained in English, right? So we'll put equal to VLOOKUP. Our lookup value is Atul 1 within this table, so I'll log this cells, and the marks in English is in column index 3, so I'll put 3. Then in matching argument we are putting exact match right now. So what will happen when you are using exact match is that it has to match everything. So Atul has 4 different characters ATUL, and it has to match in this name column one by one each and every character, and then it will get you the marks for English. But when you are using non-exact match or approximate match, even if you have 1 or 2 characters or 3 characters different in the right hand side, then you will be able to get the data. For example, instead of 0 I'm putting 1 here as an approximate match. You will see that you will get the value for marks which is obtained in English. So that is the difference between exact match and non-exact match or approximate match. Whenever you are not sure that your name in this column or the lookup value which you are searching for is exactly the same as compared to your data set in which you are searching for, then you can use this non-exact match or approximate match. So similarly, if I copy this entire formula and insert in cell C37, instead of 3 if I put 4, and for last argument instead of 0 if I keep 1 for approximate match, I'll get the maths mark which is 63. And if you compare this with your table here, you have Atul, while in your table 1 you have Atul 1, which is very different or quite different in name. You are still getting the correct English math marks here in your output table. So this is how basically this non-exact match work. Now the next formula using VLOOKUP we will be applying with wildcard match. So what this wildcard match does is that it will take a substring part and it will search in this table, and if it found anything similar to that name, it will give you the data. So for example, there is a data issue in your table and you do not have proper names, and still if you want to get the values, then you can use this wildcard matching in VLOOKUP to get the output. So what we'll simply do is that we'll put equal to VLOOKUP, and then we will have our lookup value here, which is not correct because L is missing in the name. And if I select this entire range where I have to search the value, log these cells, and then I'll put 3 to get the marks obtained in English. And if I put 0 as exact match, you will see that you will have an error here, right? You are getting an error. Okay, after 3 I have to put comma, right? So still you are getting an error. But instead of 0, if I put 1 here as an approximate match, you will still get an error. Reason being is that this VLOOKUP will not be able to find ATU unless this entire pattern is getting matched. So if you will use this wildcard or partial match, you will be able to get the value 76 for English here. Let me show you how. So we'll simply put equal to VLOOKUP and then our lookup value. After this lookup value, you simply use this ampersand sign to concatenate it and then enclose it with star mark. Then you give the range, where do you want to search it, you log the cells, and then you give the column index and put it as an exact match 0. You are getting the value 76. Now what exactly this wildcard does is that it is trying to search this pattern ATU, and the first match it gets in row number 50, because if you see this ATU, the first three character is matching at row number 50, and it's giving you the marks for English, which is 76 here. Similarly, if I just copy this entire formula and paste it for maths, replacing it 4 at the index column number, you will get the marks for maths also. Similarly for science, if you replace this 3 with 5, you will get marks for science. So this is how basically you use the wildcard when you know that your data points for which you are searching for is not accurate, but still you have to get the data. Then you can use this wildcard. The next example that we are going to look into is to get the values using VLOOKUP from the another sheet within the same workbook. So we have a car name here, and based on this car name we have to get the values for number of units sold, profit, total profit, and rank of car. And this data point is present in this sheet raw data. Here you will see that you have car name and different features of the car data set. Now you have to get values within this sheet while your data is present on another sheet within this same workbook. So in order to get that value, you simply use VLOOKUP. You give this lookup value. After this, when it's asking you to give the table array, you can simply go to that sheet where your data is present. I'll click on raw data. I'll select this entire range. After selecting of this entire range, I have to press Ctrl F to lock these cells, and I know that number of units sold is on 14th column. If I count it from A till N, number of units sold is on column N, which is on 14th index or 14th column. I can simply put 14 and then I'll press 0. Then I'll enter 0 as exact match. I'll close the bracket and you will get your value here for number of units sold. Now you might think that what is the difference of applying VLOOKUP from the same sheet and from the different sheet. So here your data is coming from raw data, right? Now if you see the table array, you are giving the entire address of the table array. The first part is the sheet name and then the range, while when you are applying VLOOKUP from the same sheet, you simply put the range where the data is present. So that is the difference to get value using VLOOKUP from the same sheet and from the different sheet. Now if I simply copy this entire formula, and for profit, if I replace the column index 14, 15, I'll get my profit. And similarly for total profit, I can replace 14 with 16, and for rank I have to replace 14 with 17 to get my rank. So all of these formula we are getting from different sheet, or all of these data we are getting from different sheet. So you just have to make sure that whenever you are getting data from different sheet, your address here gives you that from which sheet you are trying to get the data. You can see the name of the sheet from where the data is getting referenced. Now the last example that we have in this video is to get the data from another workbook. In example 5, we have seen that how we can get the data from the different sheet within the same workbook. But if you have your second table is in different workbook, then how you can get that? So we have this same raw data in our another workbook, which is in this workbook 1, and currently we are working in Excel example workbook. So if I have to get data, this number of units sold, profit, total profit, and rank from workbook 1, which is this one, which is completely different workbook, then we can simply use this VLOOKUP, and you will see that you can get data from different workbooks also. So I'll put VLOOKUP, I'll give the lookup value. After lookup value, I simply have to go on that workbook which is open in the back end. So I'm pressing Alt and Tab to get on that another window of Excel, and then I'll select this entire range. And while I'm selecting this entire range, see the second argument here, this table array. The first thing in this table array is the book name, book 1, which is within the brackets, and then this is the sheet name, and then the range. So I have to give a comma and the column index 14, and then the matching pattern, which is exact match. Now if you see the difference between these two formula, you will see that the difference is of address here. So when you are using VLOOKUP to get data from the same workbook but from different sheet, then you only give the sheet name here and then the range from where you have to get the data. While when you are trying to get data from another workbook, you have to give the workbook name in brackets, then you have to give the sheet name where the data is, and then you have to give the range, which basically Excel do it by self. When you are referencing or when you are going to different sheet, in your address bar you can see that Excel by default or automatically detect the sheet name, workbook name, and the range which you have selected. So this is how basically you can use VLOOKUP to get data from another workbook. And if I simply copy this entire formula and if I replace 14th column index with 15, you will get your profit value, and if I replace 14 with 16 to get total profit. Similarly, if I replace 14 with 17, you will get your rank of the card. So this is how basically you use VLOOKUP function in Excel. Hey, if you find this video insightful, then do check out other videos and hit the like and subscribe button.